Welcome back to the Art and Antiques Radio Show. This is your chantress of everything valuable and beautiful, Elizabeth Stewart. And I'm talking with Thomas Chalk, who's a newcomer to our gallery scene and our design scene in town. And a girlfriend of mine told me, my God, I've made such a discovery. And I thought, wow, I've got to bring Thomas to the show because I love the way he puts together his antiques and his modern and his salvaged architectural pieces. And I want to ask him about that. As far as the architectural pieces, I saw in the gallery things that I mean, 800 pounds from the East Coast and collections of foundry molds and then bullet casings and gears and pieces of walls and these old gates, old prayer what do they call that, a prayer gate or a prayer fence where the prayer runner would go in front of the altar. This is in your shop. Where do you find them? Where do you shop for them, and what do you look for, Thomas?
It's really interesting because I sort of buy things or I see things and then I sort of sit on them for a little while and then it sort of speaks to me, I guess. As an example, Elizabeth was talking about these altar railings, and one day I was on the internet and I was looking for some deco-light fixtures for one of my supposed clients, and I saw these things and said, wow, those are really cool. And so I talked to the guy and I says, well, what the hell, spend. And so it turns out these were a pair of altar railings out of a church in Belgium. They're 10 feet long and they're about, I guess about 30 inches tall. And it's a series of arches made of wrought iron, and in the middle of each arch, on the top part, on the two ends, they're branches, but in the alternating ones, which is 8 of them, they're angels. And so I have this vision somewhere where if somebody can afford this vision of mine somehow, I have these mounted at the entryway or in the backyard of somebody's house, and there's cobalt blue reflecting ponds on either side, and you walk down this walkway, granite walkway, and both sides are granite walls of a gray color so that it's not in your face, and it's just really minimal. And you have these 2 wonderful railings on the wall, and in between each arch, there's a little spigot coming out with water cascading down, making this beautiful sound, arching over. So you have like 8 arching, flowing water fountains coming out, splashing into these beautiful cobalt blue ponds that are lit at night.
Fantastic. So, okay, so what do you look for, though, when you're actually looking for salvaged architectural pieces, or are you just letting things hit you? And tell me exactly what you've got in the shop that's salvaged right now.
Well, it's sort of like I go in, like when I went to the East Coast, I was looking for some furniture, and then we went antique hunting, and then I went into this one antique place, and it was 3 stories tall, and I was hunting around, and I saw this gate, and I said, oh, that's sort of interesting. It looks sort of bronzy and stuff like that, but it was lying on its side, and I couldn't decide what to do with it. And then I said, well, maybe, I said, oh, I don't know if I can afford it because my budget, I don't have a budget. And so I asked the guy how much it was, and he told me, and I said, oh, well, I got to bite my tongue because I can't afford it, but I can afford it. So it turned out to be this gate that you get to see and walk through when you come into my gallery. It was designed between 1914 and 1920, and it was one of the first bank vault gates that they made in the United States. And it's just wonderful because, you know, if you're not nice to me, I'll lock you in there until you buy something. And I have the key.
Okay, what else? What are the salvaged items?
Oh, and then like I have these beautiful old arched mirrors that came out of somebody's house somewhere. And they're 5 feet tall, and the pair of them comes out to almost 8 feet wide. And so I mirrored the pair of them, and then we mounted them, and we made fake windowsills, and I have them hanging on the wall above this huge desk that this artist furniture guy designed for me in L.A. And so it's like you can picture yourself sitting at your desk, looking out at this beautiful scenery when you're in my place, you know, and it's just something different. And then another thing that we did was this guy had these wonderful glass and oak partitions that came out of a church. They're 14 feet long and 7 feet tall, and they actually have doors, functional doors that you can open and close on one end. And what they did was they came out of a parish hall supposedly, and they had actually eye bolts that are big round things. If you don't know what eye bolts are, that were in the top of each of these.
How many?
There was 2 big ones.
No, how many panels?
Well, I have 4 panels, and there's 2 of them in the gallery. And so what happens is I have them butted up against one another, so they're almost 28 feet long. And we rigged it so that they can basically come down. And in the back of that, the original use for the gallery, or one of the uses for the space, was a dojo. And so I can change the whole look of the gallery from being a Western look to an Eastern look at a whim. And so it's a matter of changing things. And when you come in, every time you come in, or not every time, but when you do come in, it's different. And it's not static, and that's part of the fun.
Part of the vision. So what other salvaged items have you got in the gallery?
Well, we have these foundry molds that we talked about before. They're all made out of wood, and they were basically used to make... I have this one that was made out of... They're all made out of wood, and what they would do is they'd somehow press them into the sand or something, and they
cast bronze. Yeah.
They cast these metal things.
And how big are they? Because I want the listener to know the kind of scale that.
Well, the biggest one I have is, I think, the neatest one I have. It's about almost 30 inches tall, and it's round, and it's a hatch, so it's like a submarine hatch. And so I have mounted on the wall, so I envisioned this in some lucky kid's bedroom, where you can actually hinge it or something, or you can make it like a hatch where they could even go into another room or another tube or something like that.
How much does that thing weigh?
Oh, it's not that heavy because it's all made out of wood, so it's probably about maybe 100 pounds.
Okay. But then you've got some metal salvage items too, don't you?
Oh, I have lots of salvage things all over the place, and it's, they're just because I actually have 2 of these bullet casings that I got, and they weigh probably about 60 or 70 pounds. And I just got them because they're really neat, because I was planning to take some of these foundry molds, and actually I was going to do a show where I could actually suspend them from the rafters and use these bullet casings as weights. So I'd have ropes going up, I bought these big yellow ropes that I would hang. And
I think that'd be a fantastic show. All found items, fantastic idea. And the way you've got them, it's really interesting, because you walk in, you think, oh, that's an incredible... Who's the artist? I mean, it's a wonderful contemporary piece. And then Thomas turns to me and says, no, they're foundry molds from an industrial auction. This is what it is. But, when it's recontext in your space, it completely has a life of its own. It doesn't look like cast-offs from an industrial site. It looks like really interesting, sculpture, Thomas.
And see, I think what's interesting, too, is that people don't realize that even in their houses, even all their collections of all that stuff you have in your attic, there are all these neat things, and if you just stop to think about how you could change them around and use them differently, you could do the same thing. It's just a matter of just learning how to do it, or having me come and help you, maybe. I don't know.
That's right. We're going to go to break. When we get back, we're going to talk a little more with Thomas Chalk and his new gallery, the Design Infusion Gallery, 826 East Coda Street, right before it comes to Milpas. So don't turn that dial, dear listener.
Expecting you to show, and if you don't come, I will start a call.